Hello and welcome back to the Grapple Theory podcast. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Now, if you're watching this the day it comes out, then we are a week away from WrestleQueendom, one of the biggest events of the British wrestling calendar. And to celebrate, we're going to be joined by one of the wrestlers on the show, someone who made their return to wrestling at WrestleQueendom last year. It was a big shock return. I'm sure you'll remember it. You'll know exactly who we're talking about here. They'll be talking to us about returning at Queendom, about the year they've had, about the main event between Alex Windsor and Jetta, because she's someone who's got, a stake in both sides of that fight, and she'll be giving us her exclusive reveal of who she thinks will win that match, plus loads more, including her own match at Queendom this year against Emerson Jane, which should be a cracker. If you don't know who I'm talking about already, then you'll be glad to know the reveal is coming right now, because I'm delighted to welcome to the Grapple Theory podcast this week Charlie Morgan, the ace of Eve, one half of the Royal Aces, of course. Charlie, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's a pleasure to have you here. Talk to us about the year you've had, because as I mentioned just then, you returned at the last WrestleQueendom last year. It's been over a year now. It's fair to say it's been a pretty crazy 12 months for you.
Yeah, and I can't even believe that it's been we're just a little over a year now, and it's just absolutely flown by. But it's been such a cool restart to the next chapter of my life.
Mm.
So things are very different now coming back. Up here and physically, but yeah, I'm having the time of my life. I really am. There's so much more now that I want to do within wrestling that maybe I hadn't really thought about before. Just little things like working with particular people or doing particular storylines and stuff like that. Whereas before it was sort of just seeing what happens and feeling it and just sort of going in any which direction. But now I'm more okay, so I want to do this and I want to do this and this is how we're going to get there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure, absolutely. Little bucket list sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I respect that. And I was going to say, you mentioned about sort of feeling different physically and mentally as well. In terms of coming back from the injury you had, from sort of everyone, including yourself, I'm sure, thinking you weren't going to get in the ring again. Does that go through your mind now when you're in the ring at all? In terms of maybe even out the ring, if you've been busy for a few months, giving yourself an extra bit of rest or stuff like that. Do those sort of things go through your mind a bit more?
I think there's a combination of two things. Being injured previously a number of times, big injuries, and do you know what? I think, as cliche as it sounds, just getting older and being more wary of oh shit, if I took this bump when I was 20, I would just hip straight back up and be absolutely fine the next day, wouldn't really feel, Now I feel like I've been hit by a truck. It doesn't feel great. But I think this time round coming back as well, I'm much more wary about what my body can handle and pushing my body to the limits, but also taking so much better care of myself. Whereas before, sure, I got sports massages, but that was pretty much it. Now I do a lot of physio, ice baths, chiropractor. I literally have MOT on my body. I try to do it every other month just to keep well oiled. But yes, definitely something that I am more conscious of, and especially with the fearless, persona gimmick. Sometimes I say to myself, Christ, I could have chosen something, a little less easier on my body, or why am I not a comedy wrestler, for God's sake, Now I have to throw myself off every balcony I see. No, but actually that's the trick. I don't have to throw myself off every balcony I see. I just
you still want to, though. You still want to. It's just when
the moment's right, definitely, for sure. But yeah, I'm definitely more wary of what my body can take now. I don't, whilst I'm actually resting and the adrenaline's pumping and I'm feeling it, I never ever have the thought cross my mind of, what if it goes wrong? Beforehand, yeah, sure, maybe I might, but not too much.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that. And like you mentioned in terms of like that and not always having to take those big spots. I mean, it didn't stop you on your return though, did it, at Eve with that ladder spot at Queendom? I
Well,
mean, you sort of went straight into that and we were like, oh, here's the old Charlie Morgan back. Like, this is what we love to see.
yeah, and that's exactly what I mean by the occasion calls for it. Like the reason I did that is because I wanted people to that there's that perception of fearless Charlie Morgan. Is she going to be as good as she was, or is she still got it? Like, and I completely got that like feeling of like, oh, this is what people are thinking, or at least that's how I feel. And I just felt like, no, I need to show them that I can and am daring and still fearless and will do stuff like that. I mean, ask me in another 5 years' time, and the story might be different. But as of right now, we're all good.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And that's awesome to hear. And like, again, you mentioned the whole fearless persona. I'm sure there must have been like a bit of apprehension in coming back. I know you've spoken about it on other podcasts as well, that return. What I want to know is like, was there a moment, I guess, in the ring or like before the bell rung or like, whether it might be the ladder spot where you thought, like, okay, this is me back. Like, I'm comfortable in what I'm doing again. Like, that anxiety sort of ebbs away because you're back into it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was like so nervous leading up to the match itself. And Sky, I trust the girl. I trust her so much. She's great, and actually, someone who I spoke to Dan. Because Dan's very. It's very understanding most of the time, and he I wouldn't say he let me choose my opponent, but he sort of somewhat did. So I said, if I want to be in there, if anybody like Sky is someone who I really trust. Not to knock anyone else on the roster at that point in time, but in regards to like a big heel, that stuff, I had to, I couldn't just be like, oh well, I'll wrestle Jetta.
Yeah.
No sense whatsoever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right opponent for the moment.
Yeah, of course. It had to, fit. It wasn't just like, well, that one. So I actually trained a little bit with Sky before actually like the match actually happened. So that helped. That really helped. There was a good few training sessions where I wasn't training with Sky and I was just training in general wrestling training. And I don't know, my confidence would get knocked and I was just be like, oh God, can I do this? And this was just a roller coaster of like the year, like the year leading up to even coming back. So yeah, it was crazy. But when my music hit and that adrenaline like pumped, like there's a video somewhere of like me before the curtain and I'm literally like, screaming because I just feel it so much and I missed it so much and I was ready. I was definitely ready. And leading up to WrestleQueendom, I remember having a chat with Jetta and saying like, I'm ready now. Like I'm good. Up here, I'm good. Although I thought I was. And then when I came back, it probably, I would say, took me 4 to 6 months to get in the groove and get into the swing of things, which I sort of expected.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think once I took those first few like little spot where like I lit Sky up and Sky powdered out, I remember like amping up the crowd and being like, yeah, this is gonna be fine. Like I'm good now. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, Queendom obviously a huge like comeback for yourself. And again, speaking to Jetta and Alex Windsor as well. Obviously, you were training with them in the build-up. And I mean, obviously, by coincidence, I guess, as luck would have it with Dan's booking, it was huge nights for both of them at Queendom last year as well.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
special.
Yeah, did that add to that? Obviously, the fact that you were coming back was great for yourself, and I'm sure you felt that. But like to have Jetta and Alex both getting their moments as well on one show, is that like just makes it even more special, even more enjoyable to be part of?
Yeah, definitely. Like, man, that whole day and evening like was just like so special for so many reasons. Like, me and Alex Windsor, known each other very well for some 10 plus years, and we have very similar stories unintentionally. With the injuries, with the revamping of the personas, characters. With where we originally based and trained, and we came back on the same day after both being injured in COVID. And then obviously it was special for, sharing that moment with Jetta as well, so well deserved becoming Eve champion. So yeah, it was special for so many reasons, and getting to physically, be there live and watching your best friend and your fiance do their thing. It's just very emotional, and makes me very proud. And I remember being very proud of that night to be a part of the whole roster. Not just Alex Windsor and Jetta. Obviously, like all the girls that night, absolutely like knocked out of the park. So yeah, it was like a really proud moment. But it's like the big boom was back, if you know what I mean.
For sure, yeah, it felt like that. And again, we'll get on to Jetta a bit more in a little bit, but we speak about Alex, and obviously you guys have just recently made history as the time we're recording this. At the first female main event in Middle East, is that right?
Yeah, so it was the first female match in Dubai itself. I've never seen female wrestling before.
Okay.
And then in the Middle East, the first ever women's main event, which is just like, to say that out loud is really freaking cool.
It's pretty mental, right? Like, I guess, like, I know, like, even looking at it as a fan, but I'm sure for you as well, like, you look at it and you think, like, oh, that's something that, like, a WWE wrestler will do, or, like, an AEW wrestler will do. Like, a big company will put that on first before an indie promotion. But, like, to have you guys out there, like, representing the UK and, like, making history in that way, I guess, like you say, like, it must have been special. And, like, what do you, like, sort of remember of the whole experience in terms of going out there, like, the atmosphere, the vibe of it all, and then actually getting in the ring? Like, how much different was it from a UK crowd or, like, other crowds you've wrestled in front of?
Oh, God, there's so many answers. So, like, the whole trip was just absolutely, like, incredible. I can't praise WrestleFest enough for giving us the opportunity to perform on that level. But, not even perform on that level, because it wasn't about how many people or the capacity of the crowd. It was about the moment, and it was the moment that was the magic and the, in the whole thing in regards to main eventing in the Middle East for the first time, being women, representing, obviously, women empowerment. I also had an LGBT rainbow-coloured wristband on, which was like, very, very sentimental, and and meant like that was a big deal to me as well. And I know there was some people out there as well. Yeah, it was just magic. And me and Alex actually said to each other, like, this is going to be a moment in time, and we already knew it, but at the time, there's going to be a moment in time that will live with us for a lifetime. We'll never ever forget this. It was just so special for so many reasons, and we knew, and we said this on the plane, because we sat together on the plane on the way out, and we said, like, can you believe we're doing this? Like, this is crazy. And we kept having to, like, almost pinch one another and be like, I can't believe we're here. And I remember landing, and we landed, it was like 8, 9 a.m. in the morning, and we went straight to the beach, and we were just like, we were in the sea together the day before the show, and we were just like, as if we are here, like, we're about to do something that is just monumental and trailblazing, and we just hope that not just it doesn't just like boot down the door, but it like kicks down the door, and those barriers in regards to women to follow, and trainees over there to follow through and start to like be up and coming as well. And I'm sure there'll be more women definitely going over to do exactly a similar thing to what we did. But being the first was just, there's never going to be another first. I think that's what made it so special. And the crowd was so ready to see two women have a good all-out, wrestling match. And that's what me and Alex, delivered. And then on top of that, before wrestling, we were like, so we've not wrestled each other since being Charlie Morgan and Alex Windsor, and we haven't actually probably wrestled on opposing side of the ring for like 8 years in a singles match, and that's a long damn time. And we both picture of like, are we still gonna have that click within the first 10 seconds? We were both like, we've got it, as in that click and that chemistry was there. And I was so comfortable, so relaxed, and just was happy to be out there creating and making history with with my best friend. So yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah, and you talk about that in terms of, I guess, the two of you, like you said, like we mentioned earlier, like the two of you coming back at the same time and having sort of similar stories in that comeback as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, did that feel almost like the culmination of that, then facing each other in such a historic moment where like you both had this similar journey? And I mean, like obviously you've had a great year, but like I'd say Alex this year has just been, I would say she's been like wrestler of the year. Like she's been phenomenal, and like that must be a really nice moment. Again, not just because you're best friends, but because you're two people that have sort of shared that story and that comeback year together and both done these incredible things.
Yeah, it was really surreal. It was a really surreal moment. We did a bit of filming out there with the production crew, and they were interviewing us about how big and monumental this moment was and what it means for us, and personally and professionally. And we just sat and spoke, and then he got some B-roll footage and clipped it all together and made a nice little sort of like hype video. And we didn't see that video until it was literally playing prior to the match. Like, so we were both standing there, like watching the little Minitron with all the other wrestlers who were so welcoming, so tight, and so passionate to have women's wrestling here. Like, they were all male, of course. And there's only one female trainee. Hopefully, with this, massive door booted down, that as progression happens and time, that there'll be more women coming through, which I have no doubt in my mind that there will be. But we watched that little hype video together for the first time about 40 seconds before my music was about to hit. And I turned to Alice and she was like, jumping up and down, like, you could see like the emotion and the passion. And then, there I am, like, I can't be I can't be like in a state of emotional wreck just before I go out. But it just meant the world to me, and I know it did Alice, and I just wanted to make sure that I teared that freaking house down with her. I did. And it was a very, very proud moment, very high up on the top of my list in regards to my accomplishments. So as soon as my music hit, though, that emotion turned into pure like adrenaline, and I was off.
Well, I was going to say,
imagine if I was crying.
Well, I was going to say, that's what I was going to ask, because we've spoken to a few wrestlers about this, about like sort of big matches or big moments in their careers, and like how as a wrestler you've got to sort of stay in character when you're in the ring. Like for you in that moment, how do you manage to sort of stay composed in that situation when sort of like maybe a lot of inside of you is like wanting to like sort of like burst out?
Yeah, there's been moments where I've just let that happen, because I think that's a big part of connecting with people. Like, of course, like Fearless Charlie Morgan is a character that I created, but a lot of that is actually just Yasmin Lander. In regards to what I think, my mannerisms, how I present myself, my attitude, like how I am. In real life, 8, 9, 10 times out of 10, I am, somewhat quite relentless and quite, I don't want to go as far to say fearless, but, I do have that attitude, and that's, I think, what makes for a great sort of character, if that makes sense. And I think sometimes letting down that barrier of when you feel that emotion, as you've asked, it's okay. And I've done that sometimes. Sometimes saying big moments like winning the first She-Won, like after 4 grueling matches, and then finally, winning the first ever She-Won. Do you know what? Obviously, the whole weekend was so special in regard to that. But for me, I couldn't get in my head how I had deserved to be in that spot when there was people like Kaylee Ray, Viper, Coney Storm, Killer Kelly, Millie McKenzie, and all these people. I'm like, wait, me? And that ultimately was the thing that, led my career to boom. But it was moments like that, or like headlining WrestleQueendom 1, where I would get emotional, and I would let the crowd in, because why wouldn't I be? Why wouldn't me as a person, or Charlie Morgan, be emotional about that? Even though we're have different, like, obviously, like, we're different, like, it's Yasmin Lander playing the role of Charlie Morgan. It's still somewhat me, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. There's always like a part of you that influences that character, right? There's always a part of you in there.
Exactly. And that's how you get to understand your character and what you would or wouldn't do in certain situations. Like, I can fully have a conversation with, you know, another worker, and they maybe suggest something like, oh, well, maybe you should do this. I'm like, well, Charlie won't do that. And some people are like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, yeah, they're either on the same wavelength or they're just like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, Charlie just wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it takes time. It takes a lot of time to that understanding, I think.
No, sure. And you speak about the character of Charlie Morgan. That leads us beautifully to the segue of our first little like sort of feature on the show, which is called What's in a Name? And it's essentially talking about like what makes Charlie Morgan. But as well as talking about Charlie Morgan, I want to take you back to Lady Penelope and the story behind that. So if it's something you're cool talking about, like how did that moniker come about? And then when and what influenced the change and wanting to become Charlie Morgan?
I hate that Lady Penelope even existed. And if I had it my way, it would have never had existed. But saying that, you live and learn. And maybe if Lady Penelope was never born, maybe Charlie Morgan wouldn't have developed into what she later developed in later on in her career. The only one, I wouldn't say regret, because, you know, I would never change anything in regards to where I am now, but I just wish I'd done it sooner. But hey ho, such is life. So I, as most people know, started training with the Knights down in Norwich, and because I mean, this is, I don't know if it's naivety or whatever you want to call it, but I think they just assumed that because I was from Cambridge, which I am originally from Cambridge, and I suppose to some people quite well spoken. I don't think that, but you know, some people did. And they're like, well, you know, you need to think of a gimmick or a character or a name at least. And I was like, originally I wanted to be called Madison something. I wasn't sure on the surname, but I knew it was Madison.
Right.
But, little to my knowledge, because I didn't even really study or know much about independent wrestling, there was obviously Madison Eagles at the time. So, okay. So I think Sweet Saray might have said, you can't have Madison. And I was like, okay, I'll think of something else. I was like, how long have I got to think? And she was like, 3 hours. And I was, what? And they're like, you're on the show tonight. And I was like, I don't even have boots. Like, I had like Lonsdale boots or something. And I was like, I don't have gear. Like, I have nothing. And Rayo Pate, which is now known as Paige, or Rayo, I don't know how many bloody names. But she was like, well, I'll just nip home and I've got a bunch of stuff, you can wear that. And I was just like, oh, this is not how I envisioned my first missed match, probably not fitted very well clothes, a name that I hated. It was like, you know when your mum makes you put things on and she stands you in front of the mirror and you're like, yeah, lovely. That's basically what I was like. And I was like, well, I really can't think of a name. Like, can I just be called Madison and leave it at that? And Switch Ray was like, no, you look like a Penelope. And I was like, but that really gives off like a posh vibe. She was like, well, yeah. And I was like, but I'm not posh. Like, I suppose they didn't really know me. There was a lack of understanding on their behalf, probably. Again, they didn't know me, and in my defence, I suppose there was just a lot of naivety, and I was told to keep your mouth shut and your eyes and your ears open, and I'm not going to argue back with that, am I? So that was it. The name stuck, unfortunately. And actually, if you watch a lot of later Penelope matches and whatnot, well, actually, I don't actually advise anyone to do that. But if you do, you'll see like a real slow transition into what then was Charlie Morgan. For example, Pat's, the same style of gear, although it's not exactly the same as it is now, somewhat like style or similar style. And then my mannerisms started to change. Like, I was being told, and this is what I hated, and this is why I wish I'd stuck up for myself. And years ago, when it was happening to me, I was told you need to act a certain way, you need to be a certain way, you can't walk like that, you need to, you're very like, dudish mannerisms. And I was like, well, that's me. You know, that's who I am. And I was being told to be somebody that I'm not. Which, right then, when I became Charlie Morgan, I was so passionate about it because it was just an amped up version of me.
Yeah.
So I continued doing this gimmick that I thought was a pile of shit, basically, and hated every minute of it, but I was willing to learn because, you know, this is what I wanted to do, and I just shut my mouth and went with it, and it's in the end. And then I was like, I think Alex Windsor had actually not long revamped. She moved, she relocated to the West Midlands, and I was like, I need to do something similar, but like, how do I go about this? Because I can't relocate. And Alex had that relocation to really help her. So rebrand and revamp and get out of Norwich, because I knew that I needed to get out of Norwich to get my foot in the door, to get out there. You know, people would come down like Kaylee Ray and Viper and Emerson Jane and Debbie and like loads of other, you know, loads of really big names at that time for me. Erin Angel, Jetta, like I would these girls like come and go, and I'd be like, I think if I just, you know, tried to get myself out there, or I just trained like somewhere else, because I just felt like I was stale. I could only learning so much. I was like, I could be, I don't know about as good, but I could hang with them. That was my thought process then.
Yeah.
And it was just sort of, it came to a point, I think late 2016, where I was like, well, it's now or never. If I don't do anything soon, I've already, what I felt like at the time, had wasted like 4 or 5 years. And I was just like not sick of seeing everybody else do their thing and me not being able to, but I knew, the difference was that I knew I could do that.
That desire, yeah. You're like, I've seen them do it, I want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. And like you... No, so go on.
No, and then yeah. So that was the thought process behind it. The more I saw the great workers come down and wrestle for Bellatrix and WAW, and you know, the more I was like, I'd be put on with these girls like Erin Angel, Kaylee, Shana. There was loads of people that I've wrestled, and I was like, I need this. I can't keep wrestling the same people over and over. It's not doing anything for me. You know, like when the import or whatever didn't come over.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's ultimately, I think, the push and the influence of Alex as well. So what I didn't have in my favour was the relocation, but I revamped. I changed my gimmick, and I messaged Dan. He was the first person I messaged, because I'd been hassling him for about 2 years straight. And he was like, I don't get your gimmick. Go away, kids, and sort yourself out, basically. And I was just like, okay. I took offence at the time, but now I realise that, he was right. Don't tell him that, though. But
Dan, don't watch this part. Dan, cut this out.
Stop listening, Dan.
But again, I mean, that's the thing. Like, we'll get on to... I want to talk to you about Dan as well in a sec. But like you mentioned again, like Alex, and we spoke to Alex about like Liberty and making that transition into Alex Windsor. And like again, it's sort of like another similarity you guys have had in your career where you wanted to burst out and make that change. And we spoke to her about it. But again, for you, like slowly seeing more of what would become Charlie Morgan eat into that Penelope character, I bet that must have been really freeing and like cathartic to sort of like be being yourself in the ring rather than someone else.
Yeah, definitely. Like I felt more comfortable. And I remember my first match. So my first match, actually, as Charlie Morgan was with Rosemary. And it was at Southside, early 2017. And I remember coming back from that match and just saying, like, what critiques have you got? And she was like, look, you're definitely on the right track, because she knew me as Penelope as well. She knew me, and I was portraying years before when I was portraying the Penelope character. She's like, you definitely are on the right tracks, because you're so much more comfortable within the ring and you can feel that. She was like, just keep working on you and you will find yourself. And that will be put, that will be displayed in your character. And then fast forward 3 and a bit years later, when I debuted for Shimmer, Rosemary was there. and I main evented, which is crazy to think for me, because that was always a massive goal for me to wrestle in Shimmer. I main evented against Mercedes Martinez, which is just insane. She's phenomenal. And I remember coming backstage, and I was just so happy and buzzed about the match. And I was chatting to one of the girls, maybe Steph Delander and Indy, which are my good friends, and I miss them so much. But not to swerve, but Jessica Havoc and Rosemary come up to me, and they were like, because I was really praising Mercedes, how amazing and how amazing she is and how much she meant to me. And Jessica Havoc said, "But you were in that match too, and you did just as a good job." And then Rosemary pulled me aside, and she was like, "Yeah, you've nailed it. Like, when I first wrestled you as your debut as Charlie Morgan and watching you out there," she was like, "flawless." And that to me was just such an overwhelming emotional sigh of relief, because she'd seen me,
She'd seen that journey, yeah.
I don't know, but it means a lot to me. It means a lot to me.
Yeah, for sure. But, I get that.
Yeah, so in regards to the slow transition, obviously there's some bits that you could probably tell in later Penelope stages. I just was like, I need to change the look and go with something that represents me and is what I would feel comfortable portraying. And then the names obviously completely needs to change, and it all needs to match and link up and connect, because with Penelope there was such a massive disconnect with everything possible. So I really wanted to make sure that Charlie Morgan connected and made sense. And my God, when I'm out there in front of you people, the fans, I feel that connect so strongly, and I hope, and I think they do back.
Oh, too. For sure. You can tell in the ring, the connection you have with the crowd is incredible, and they think the world of you, and that's the thing I think is probably comes across more when you're being more yourself rather than being somebody else. But again, you mentioned you mentioned Dan in that in sort of that whole trying to get booked on Eve sort of thing, and we had Dan on the show, and he's just got so much love for you, and what you do and the work you put in, and he spoke about you so highly. I mean, talk to me about him. About huh?
He's charged by the minute, I'm sure.
No, he was quite good actually. He was quite good. Sort of let us off the hook for that. But I mean, he spoke so highly of you. Just talk to me about him, because it seems like so much sort of is right about what he does with Eve, and the way it's booked and the way it's handled and the spotlight it gives to women's wrestling, which is obviously so important as well. But it seems everyone we've had on the show who wrestles at Eve just doesn't have a bad word to say about it. Maybe in kayfabe, they say a couple of bad words, depending on if they're heel. But
Not some bad words.
Go on. I mean, now's your chance. Go on, lay into him, because that's the. I just want to know your thoughts on him, the work at Eve, and what Eve essentially means to you, and him finally sort of giving you that chance, and where it's led.
I'll start off by saying, Dan, switch off your camera and your mic and just stop listening, tune out. I will go back and tell you all about this, but one moment that really springs to my mind is the ending of WrestleQueendom 1, and we hugged at the end, and someone had just put the belt around my waist and done it up, and I hugged him at the end, and I just said, "Thank you so much for believing in me." And he just hugged me back and said, "I always knew you could do it." And that, for Dan to give a compliment is like pulling teeth, to be honest. He's brutal, but I needed it, and so do so many girls out there. And to anyone that ever turns their nose up at Dan or shudders away because of the advice or the critique, and yes, he is brutal, you just got to take it on the chin and you love, because he's not always right, but he's 9 times out of 10 right, I'd say. And at least if it doesn't feel like he's right at the time, I bet you'll go back and reflect on what he said and been like, okay, yeah, that bit made sense. I understand why he's pushing me, even though it doesn't come from like a dickish place. He means it with, you know, all the best intentions, and he really wants like the women on his show to progress, not just for Eve, but, you know, for themselves as well. Because the more notoriety they get everywhere else, of course, when they come back to Eve, it does the same thing. You know, it's a circle.
Yeah.
So I actually first met Dan when I wrestled a female as Lady Penelope for Southside, actually. You're talking a year into my career, so I was well in over my head. Well out of my depth. And it was just a squash match. It was probably like 2-3 minutes long, but even that for me at that point in my career, I was like bricking it because, you know, Alpha Female was a massive star on the independent scene at that time, and I had no idea what I was doing. So he come up to me after the show, and I shook his hand, and to be honest, I didn't even know who he was. and at that time, I was probably quite young and naive, and maybe even a little bit cocky. I don't know why. I had no right to be. And he was like, so, and every female wrestler gets this, trust me, and we all hate it, and we all think, shut up. Well, I did at that point. And he said, so this Penelope gimmick, and I was already thinking, don't ask me, because I don't know. And he just was like, I didn't get it. You're so brutal. I didn't get it. What does it mean? And I was just like, why are you asking me that? Like, I come off, and I know that I did, I come off very cold and not very responsive and probably not willing to listen, but I didn't understand. I was young. I didn't understand. I didn't really want to listen because I just thought, do you know what it was? I was in denial. Is probably the easiest way to put it. I was in denial, and I just wanted to believe what I wanted to believe. And obviously, as years went by, I was like, no, I really have to make some changes. And maybe Dan was right all those years ago. He was. So, later on, as time went by, and he always kept, you know, one another on each other's socials, so he knew what I was doing. And you know, I think I messaged him as I was getting later into the Penelope stages of my career, knowing that I needed to boot down the door and make a big change. And he was like, look, like, come back to me when you're doing something a bit different. Or, you know, he did say to me, I'll give you a shot. And I can't remember what happened. I had some sort of family emergency and I couldn't make it. This was Penelope. But, guys, because I'm glad I never debuted on Eve. As Penelope, because that just would have been crap. And when I ramped and I put the posts out there about being Charlie Morgan now, I screenshot it and sent it to him, and I was like, I done it. I was like, there you go. 6 years later, I'm here. And he was like, okay, cool, leave it with me. And I thought, oh, well, that was great. And I literally sat there with no bookings for like a week, 2 weeks. And WWE had sort of sacked me off because I decided to do my own thing. They have a weird cult, like, just let them get on with it.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, shit. So I'm literally twiddling my thumbs, no bookings in Norwich. I've burnt that bridge, and at that point I didn't care. Still don't care. And I was like, oh, great, now what am I doing? And then obviously like Ben Old came with Southside, and Dan finally messaged me back like a few days later. He was like, okay, so 20th and the 21st of May 2017. He was like, book them out. I said, okay, cool. I was like, who am I wrestling? He was like, Chris Wolf. I was like, okay. He was like, and Kaylee Ray. I was like, great. I was shitting myself.
They're throwing you in the deep end.
Yeah. And he said to me basically like, and he didn't outright say this, but he might as well have said, if you can hang with them, you've got a year worth of bookings. Actually, he might have even said that. He probably did know him. And then, after the weekend had finished, he come up to me and said, you did good. He's like, got a lot of work to do in regards to storyline and understanding still and developing the character and evolving and psychology and promos and all that stuff. He's like, you got a lot of work to do. He was like, but you're definitely on the right path. He was like, so here's your year worth of bookings. So I was like, oh, cool. The rest is history. I got to, know Dan and learn his ignorant traits and know him really well as he's actually one of my close friends, like all jokes aside. We speak probably every day. He's coming to my wedding, like, him and Emily. I have a lot of love for them both. Probably more so Emily than Dan, because Dan annoys me. But he's done. In all jokes aside, like he has done wonders for me and so many other women. And I'm not going to deny the fact that I think if there was no Dan Reed, there was no Eve. I don't know if there would be Charlie Morgan, or at least there would be Charlie Morgan, but maybe not as well established as I am. So yeah, I'm not, like I said, I'm not naive in regards to like knowing that like Dan has done a lot for me, and I appreciate it so much. I really do. Although I might not tell him.
No, give that to yourself. That's fine.
Yeah, just give yourself and whoever's watching.
But again, like that's something you can talk to me about, because I think a few wrestlers who work on Eva have said this, and it really hit home to me a few weeks ago when we had Ava on the show. And she said that like she'd been messaging Dan for bookings, and Dan gave her her first match with Lana Austin. And like she felt like that was a sort of like a sort of trial by fire, but like if you can hang, then you've essentially got your bookings. And so like it seems like that thing with Dan, like that maybe you can attest to, where like it takes a lot to win him over, but once you've won him over, like he goes all in on you, like he wants you to succeed so bad. He seems like that sort of person.
Well, yeah, he does. He's a lovely. He's a lovely guy. Like he is. His heart's in the right place. Sometimes he's, well, brutal, but sometimes I think, maybe it's what we need. And he's really somebody that pushes the women. Jesus, not physically. I'm going to end up getting him cancelled. But he is. He wants us to progress, and he wants us to do well because, well, one, it benefits for his shows. It makes for a better show. But also, he just wants to see progression within women's wrestling.
Yeah.
That's the 1 hour challenge. Like, it's all progression. Like, that's not just to get him a bit of publicity. Like, there's nobody out there that's done what Dan has done in regards to how he's marketed his promotion, his company, and naming somebody else that's done it or done it just as good or better, because I can't think of anybody. And Dan has done a lot for myself, Charlie Morgan and my career. Like, he, like, leading up to, so there's so many things that happened in a really short period of time, and I literally had no idea how, looking back, I had no idea how I even processed it. Like 2017 was mental for me. I obviously debuted, and as soon as I sort of debuted and I started to get a bit of notoriety, it just sort of exploded, and I was like, oh my god, like I'm wrestling everywhere now, I can't keep up. But it's great, but I also had to learn so quick, because that bubble that I was in Norwich, like, it just did not extend my knowledge. Like, it didn't do anything for me. The first year I learned a bunch, and then I just stayed stale and the same and wasn't progressing. And now all of a sudden I'm in there with, all sorts of, incredible workers: Tony Storm, Millie McKenzie, Nina Samuels, Ginny, Mercedes Martinez. There's just to name a few. Obviously Kaylee. Like, there's just endless amounts of people that I was just trying to absorb, knowledge from. And so I got that year worth of bookings, and then he messages me like a week or two later. We're like, the show, I think, of July, would have been a few weeks away at this point. He's like, hey, can I catch you before the show? I just need to chat with you. And I was like, is everything all right? And he was like, yeah, just come down early and we'll talk. And I was like, oh God, okay. So I got there early, and I still don't really know him that well at this point. And I was like, oh, you all right? And he was like, yeah, I need to ask you something. And I was like, okay. He was like, have you ever thought about, being like a representative in the LGBT community? And I shit you not, I cried. I didn't answer it. I just cried, because I knew, or I hoped, that the next thing he'd come out of his mouth was like, do you want to do something about it? And it still makes me like super emotional thinking about it, or talking about being a representative in the LGBT community. And there's so many women and women, men, and in the business now that are incredible representatives of the LGBT community, and it's so vastly progressed, and it's phenomenal. It's incredible, and that's what anyone could wish for, really. But back in 2017, it wasn't as well received, I suppose, as it is, in the year of 2022.
Yeah, for sure.
And times were different then. And he said, "How would you feel about doing something about it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to." Little did he know, in 2015, when I wrestled in Sweden, I used to come out with the pride flag, and but I was Penelope, and I had no idea how to incorporate it. I just came out of it and held it up, and that was it. Like, so I always knew that I wanted to incorporate it, and I didn't want to be Charlie Morgan, the gay wrestler.
Yeah.
That's not what I am. Like, being gay doesn't identify who I am. I just happen to be gay and I'm a wrestler. That's it. And I think for me, now, looking back at the things that I've done in regards to representation, if 6-year-old me, or maybe I didn't quite realise at 6, but let's say 12-year-old me, saw watching the Olympics someone with a little pride badge on, I would be like, oh, so it's okay. Like, it is okay to be whoever the hell I want to be.
Yeah.
And I've fought that so much as a young adult, like those feelings, and I was so conflicted, I was so confused, and there was no one to look up to, really. And I always say this now, like, it happened in Dubai, actually. Literally, a few weeks ago, I had the the pride colours on a wristband, and a couple of people come up to me then, and were being really secretive because they obviously didn't want people to hear. And one gentleman come up to me and he says, "You have no idea what it means to me to see somebody like you, wearing, like, representing the LGBT community." He was like, "It really, really has opened my eyes, and I just want to thank you." And I can't. There's no real words, and there's no 5-star wrestling match that's gonna touch that feeling. Yeah. I didn't even know that connecting with people and having an influence on people in that way was even possible. It wasn't for Dan giving me the platform to express, or publicly coming out, or whatever you want to call it. And I think at the time there was a lack of understanding in regards to what workers perceived what I did was right or wrong, and some thought that I did it for my own career, not understanding that there's a much bigger picture.
Yeah.
And actually, if you stay still for years and years and years, how the hell is there ever going to be any change if no one stands up and fights for what's right, and what is fights for what sort of people believe in?
Yeah, for sure.
And that was my argument, and a lot of people thought, well, she just did it for herself. I don't think personality needs to come into wrestling. Whoa. That is wrestling.
Yeah.
Like,
it's all about that. It's all personality, and it's like you say, like, again, in terms of the representation of it, like, we've done this whole month, we've been doing a podcast about Black History Month, talking to black wrestlers about representation. And again, it's a similar thing in that, like, you see black wrestlers on posters, or like you see LGBT wrestlers on posters, and you're like, oh, this is someone I can identify with. This is someone who can get me into this space because it's someone I can relate to. And that's what's so important. That's the important part of it.
Yeah, definitely. And that goes back to me saying, if that teenager, if me as a teenager could see that, that would have done wonders for me as a young adult and a teenager. And I think that's an amazing thing to see, especially in the past, I'd say, 4 years? Like, it's just dramatically changed for the better. But I'm not going to lie, before I went out and, I was cutting a promo with Nina Samuels, even trying to find someone to cut the damn promo with me was difficult.
Yeah.
be involved. Yeah, I'm not gonna get involved with that. That's too risky. What? Like, it was just a different time back then, and I don't think I got the credit I deserved.
No, but, I agree. But look how far you've come, and look how far representation has come because of yourself and people like you as well, and that's something you can be so proud of.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say I was the first to ever do it, because I know that I wasn't. But I don't know that many people in the UK that have physically come out publicly in a professional wrestling ring. Again, it's not me saying I'm the first, but I think I definitely kick-started it in the right direction.
For sure.
For other people to, turn heads, and if they felt a certain way, then, the next month they might come out with just so it doesn't have to be in your face. And that's the thing that I think was so misconcepted. In regards, like, well, if they're gay, they've got to start, acting gay in the ring. No.
Yeah, like bringing out the flag or something, and like all that stuff. You don't have to.
No. As in, like, it's fine to physically display the pride, because how's anyone really going to know if you don't? And subtle, like, however subtle you want to make it, like, I don't know, if you put pride colours in, like, shoelaces, things like that, it can be as subtle as that. But as in, like, I personally think when you're gay wrestler and then you start actively acting gay, like begging people over or just doing something, it's like, that's not progressive.
Yeah, it's more detrimental.
Yeah, but each to their own. Like, like, everyone has their own thing that they like to do, or are known for and whatnot. But like, it's moved massively, which is all you can ask for, really.
Absolutely.
And that was Dan that gave me that opportunity. So
yeah, big up Dan, and big up yourself as well, because you have done great work, and I think that, like, that is something that's really special, and it's really amazing to see.
Yeah, it is. It does mean a lot to me. It really does. Like, even like 6 months after cutting the promo, and people would come up to me and mention it, and I'd be like, "How have you seen it?" Like, I'm just me.
Yeah.
And I think, like, like, how have I made it any sort of influence or encouragement or whatnot on people's lives? And I think that's the thing that makes me so emotional, is like knowing that I have. But I don't really know I have until people come up to me, and I still get it today. I got it a few weeks. As I said, I got it a few weeks ago. One of the stories that is really, really special to me. I'm not going to name the person that's found, but when I retired, I did my retirement speech in 2019 at WrestleQueendom 2.
Yeah.
I did my thing. I said what I wanted to say, and I went back. And the week later, there was an Eve show, and I said my final sort of goodbyes then. And that makes it sound like I'm dying. But what I was supposed to, part of me did die that day. I was supposed to be morbid. But the fan that attended WrestleQueendom 2 was also at this Eve show. And he said, "I'm trying to have a word with you." And I said, "Yeah, sure." Had a picture and all that stuff. And he was like, "I really want to tell you something." And I was like, "Okay, cool." He was like, "So when you retired last week, I never got the opportunity to speak to you. But I realised that when you retired, that I may never see you again." He was like, "So when I realised that you were going to be at Eve today, the week later, I made a promise to myself, because I've always wanted to tell you that you were the reason, that you were the person and the reason that gave me strength and courage to come out to my family, and I've been gay for 10 years and I've not told anyone."
Amazing.
And he was like, "But I haven't come out until 2 days ago, because I realised that I'd probably never see you again." And it was leading up to that weekend, that I would say my final goodbyes. So he was like, "So from the moment you announced your retirement, I said to myself, well, it's now or never. I see her next week, and I either tell her this story or I don't, and I live with the regret." And I'm not even joking. Like, I was just speechless, and I just welled up. Like, I wasn't even Charlie Morgan at that point. It was just done. I was selling merch. And I just said, you should be damn proud of yourself. And you don't need to thank me, but I appreciate it. But you should, be thankful and grateful that you had that courage to do something like that. Because 10 years is a long time to not be. That's a long time. And I went home that day and driving home, I was just like, life is crazy.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. But that's lovely. And it's lovely you can have that influence. And that's a really lovely story and really nice. Like, I like that.
Yeah, it's still, even to this day, I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah. Crazy.
Not fully see the impact you have.
Yeah. It's not until I do things like this that I'm like, oh, I've done it quite a bit, but I don't feel like I don't feel. I'm not even joking. I'm not even exaggerating when I say this. I still feel like I'm a rookie.
Well, we know that you're not, and that brings us back to Queendom coming up this year. And we haven't even talked about your match yet. We've got to get that in quickly before the end of this. And from what it's written as on the Eve promo, from like how Dan's written, is this going to be the final chapter of you and Emerson Jane? Is this going to be the last battle?
Well, you'd like to think after the lights out match that I never have to see her face again. She is like the devil, isn't she? To Charlie Morgan, anyway.
Oh yeah, you guys have got
She's very much like the devil, the demon to Charlie Morgan and arch enemy sort of thing. But I think that this will be our last for at least a long time. I mean, a lights out, and for those that I can't even bloody say it, lights out match. For those that don't know what a lights out match is, it's basically two wrestlers enter the ring. Obviously, Charlie Morgan, myself, Emerson Jane. The lights go out and the lights come on. There is no accountability or responsibility taken from the Eve promotion to what happens in that match. So what we do in that ring, like, nobody is accountable for or responsible for in regards to how much we beat the shit out of each other. And if I take my word for it, I will beat the shit out of her. As I'm sure she will do her very best to do the same to me. I think we've had so many matches where, they've been quite, I say, straight-laced wrestling matches. No real gimmick matches, I suppose, but over the past couple months, there's definitely been a few things that have been used in regards to weapons that, it just makes sense to, like, do something of this magnitude in regards to the lights out match, because then anything goes.
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to be an epic battle. Can't wait to see it. Can't wait. The other thing, again, leading up to Queendom that I want to talk to you about, you've been dodging this question admirably on social media, and I've got to give you credit. But this is the big sort of blow-off podcast before Queendom. So, who is going to win out of Jetta and Alex Windsor?
Is it normal that your fiance and best friend fight? Like,
I think it might be normal in a lot of realms in real life. I'm not sure I know of it in the wrestling ring too much.
No, I don't know if that's ever occurred before, but I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty gutted that Alex didn't, challenge for the tag team championships with me, as we were or are a tag team, Titanium Affinity. We did a whole thing together. Alex,
What happened with that?
Been shoved to the side because you're too worried. No, I get it. I've got respect, obviously. All personal feelings aside, like, I do generally, even my fiance, like, I have a lot of respect, and somebody that I very much looked up to, but also continue to look up to in regards to the wrestling world. Personal life, however, she drives me mad. But best friend, also a lot of respect. Like, she's absolutely nailed it this year. Like, I couldn't be more proud for both, honestly. Like, they've both had really, really, like, great years. And actually, Jetta, I think, for the length of time that she's been doing this wrestling stuff, she's had a phenomenal year. To say that, she must be, I don't think she'd want me to say how long she's doing it. Double figures, late into the double figures years, But I'm going to have to root with Jetta.
Yeah. I think that's smart. You live with her, right? Like you don't want any sort of like aggro.
Exactly. And we're going on holiday soon, so.
Oh yeah, no. If you side with Alex and then like again and then you're going on holiday, that's just gonna be awkward, isn't it?
Exactly.
You got to keep
So
the peace.
But no, obviously, like Jet is my girl. Like I love her to bits. I mean, obviously.
You'd hope, right? You'd hope.
Huh?
You'd hope so.
I hope so. Yeah. And you know, like yeah. If I'm gonna go with anybody, I mean, Alex might be faster and, you know, maybe a slightly better wrestler, but Jetta has been doing it way longer and will probably outsmart her way quicker than Alex, I think, expects. So, you know, you have to balance that up. So I definitely am rooting for Jetta.
There we go. We've got the answer. But you've got a chance to show Alex some love here with this other question, because I always put people on the spot like this when they're part of two tag teams. And obviously you are. Titanium, Royal Aces as well. You've got to pick one of them to win the tag belts with. Who are you picking?
Let's stop this now. Bye.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. What a difficult question.
I've done it with everyone that we've had sort of like in multiple tag teams, so I feel like it'd be unfair if I left you out.
Yeah, but like, no. I feel like I should say Alex because I've just said Jetta for the previous one, but
Balance it
both.
out.
I can't say both. Both for so many different reasons. Yeah, the chemistry I have with Alex in the ring, like we are literally just BFF, but just in front of people. Like how we act together and our chemistry and our goofiness and the way we are, but we get it done in the ring, and we're both quite well established in regards to that style of wrestling that we present. So on that level, we're very similar. Whereas Jetta has a slightly different style in comparison to me. So I say I'm fearless. She would say she's fearful of life. So we're very, very different in that respect. I'll say Alex.
Smart. Balance it out. I like it. Diplomatic. Well, I think that's the last time I'm going to put you on the spot, because we've got a couple of fun features to close with. We're going to know a little bit more about you now. Not about Charlie Morgan, about Yasmin Lander now, because this is our final feature, and it's called Anatomy of a Pro Wrestler. And I'm just going to ask you about, you'll see. It's nothing too strenuous this time, I promise. But it's just little bits about essentially what makes you you. So... Yes, it's not necessarily quick fire. We can expand on stuff if you want, but it's that sort of style of question.
Okay, try.
So, so the first one is my favourite pre-match meal or pre-show meal.
To eat?
Yeah.
It's called Scratch because it's done by Sainsbury's, I think, and it's like a chicken tikka. It's like a protein meal.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, well, on the opposite end of the spectrum, this is where it gets interesting. This is always my favourite question. On the opposite end of the spectrum, it is my favourite post-pinfall pig-out.
Post-pinfall cookies.
Yeah?
Especially Nina Samuel's cookies.
Nina Samuel makes good cookies, does she?
Yes. Have you not heard about these?
I've not heard about these. Jetta told me about something. Jetta told me about something that someone else makes. It might have been Nina. It might not have been cookies, though. It might have been brownies or something.
Yeah. Salted brownies, blondies, cookies. She's that good that she's doing our wedding cakes. Amazing!
I love that. That is great. So she's the baker of the locker room.
Oh yeah, she'll always bring stuff like WrestleQueendom. I'm fully expecting cookies, the lot. But some of the gals, I'll be looking around and they'll be eating. I'm like, before their match. Me, I wait.
But
I don't have abs like this for no reason.
Do you have to tuck a few away though to make sure they don't all go before you come back?
Yeah. For sure. Jetta's normally had two. She's a little piggy.
Love it. We have to get Nina now on to talk about her baking skills. That's great. We need to do that next. The next one is it's the final food related one, but it's just your favourite type of food in general.
Like cuisine or whatever it's called.
It doesn't have to be it can be a certain dish or a certain type of food or anything really in that range. It can be a certain specific thing.
So would never knock a Christmas dinner. I've got it in my head. I'd never. I always love a Sunday roast. Favorite sort of general cuisine. How do you even say that word?
I say cuisine, but Gordon Ramsay's like cuisine, and I'm like,
I know, just from like, how's it? Maybe like look up Gordon Ramsay and see how he pronounces it. Is it a Mexican?
Nice.
But when I went to Mexico a few years ago and tried the legitimate stuff, it was vile. So actually, what I come to find is that I like Tex-Mexican.
Right.
Apparently, the Americanized stuff of Mexican food.
Yeah.
So that's what I like. But
nice.
Yeah, I should be way bigger than what I am. Like I can eat. I'm not fussy in regards to like what I eat. I don't think Jetta might say otherwise, but yeah. So. But
again, you wrestle. You're like in the gym. You're training and stuff. Like, there's no reason why you would be any bigger because you're burning it off straight away, right?
Yeah, I do. I'm a massive gym goer. Like, can't praise the gym. That's a weird thing to say, isn't it? Can't say how much I'm going to the gym enough. But yeah. So I suppose it balances it out.
Exactly. Nice. The next one is music themed because it's the song that gets me the most hyped.
Insomnia by Faith. Was it Faithful? Who's the guy that sings? It's just the beat actually that I like.
I don't know if I know the song. That's why I'm struggling to help you out here.
Insomnia, Faithless.
Right.
It's like a late night dance track.
Okay.
If you hear it.
Yeah.
For sure. So if ever like I'm like getting to the end of my workout or whatnot, and I really like, I don't know, I'm on my last few sets or reps or whatever it be, and I'm struggling, I'll put that on.
Nice. Give you that boost.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
No, like you say, I've probably heard it, but I'm not a huge like dance or pop like kind of guy. So like, I'll know songs, but I won't know who they're by or like what they are until I hear them.
Yeah. You would probably know it if you heard it for sure. I'm saying that I know a lot of songs, but like I don't know. I'm terrible with actresses and artists and names and all that sort of stuff.
Sure. Well, speaking of artists, the next one is my favourite band of all time. It doesn't have to be a band, it can be like a solo artist or what have you, but like favourite music act of all time.
So my favourite band is probably a band called Three Doors Down.
I know them, yeah.
Yeah, I used to, not so much anymore, but I used to really, really love them. Big fan of NF. His lyrical music is really good. I'm weird though, you know, like if I handed over my playlist to someone, they'd think I'm a psychopath. Because I have like death metal and then I've got Celine Dion's, Think Twice in there. So like,
oh, to be fair, who doesn't love a bit of Celine? Like,
exactly. Exactly. It's got like, like recent pop, hip hop, rap, Eminem, big fan of Eminem.
Nice. Just all over the place, really.
I'm all over the shop, yeah. That's basically it. I think I've named like 3 there.
No, that's fine. I like it. Well, the next one is the best gig I've ever been to.
As in artist?
Yeah, like the best show you've ever been to. Like,
you know, it was probably not long ago. I went to see Machine Gun Kelly. A big fan of Machine Gun Kelly.
Nice.
It was just so good.
Yeah.
So it was really charismatic. He was like working the crowd, and I think as a performer, you can relate.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was very like involving with the crowd, and his songs. I mean, I love his songs anyway. I love his work anyway, but he didn't sound no different live than he did listening to him at home. You know.
That's good. Yeah.
It's always shit when you go and see someone they sound like dog rough.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I went over this with because I don't know how much you know of Motley Crue.
A little bit, yeah.
So like I went over this with when we had Casey Owen on the show because she loves them, and like the singer of Motley Crue can't sing for shit anymore. So like you see them live and he's like rambling all the words and it sounds terrible. But on the record he still sounds incredible. So you just listen to that.
Yeah. You just have to pretend You have to go there, listen to your headphones.
Yeah, exactly. Just blank it out.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan. Actually, going back to the music sort of side of things. I think this is to do with my mum. Growing up, like she had a lot of dance house music, like late 90s. So like all that sort of stuff, like I still love. Like
Nice.
I'll easily listen to just 90s dance playlist, and it just is very nostalgic for me.
Love it. I love it. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. Like what you're raised on is always what like sort of like influences you.
Yeah.
I get that. The next one is the movie that I show the locker room.
The movie that you'd show the locker room.
Yeah, so it's not. I mean, it can be your favorite movie. I describe it as like you're in the locker room. For some reason, everyone's there like 2.5 hours before bell time, and like you're like, right, we're all watching this movie because you think it's the movie everyone should see.
Me, Myself, and Irene.
That is an interesting choice. Go on, I need some explanation on that one then. Just the theory behind it.
I don't know why, but I was obsessed with it as a kid. Strange little kid. And I just thought it was great. I'm a big fan of Jim Carrey anyway. I think he's absolutely like incredible, like how well he acts. But I just like just thinking about it now, like me, Myself, and Irene is actually really, really funny. And I think I used to watch it as a kid and not really understand what the hell was going on, but then watching it as an adult is so much funnier. And I was actually like, God, my dad used to let me watch it. It's so terrible.
Oh, I get that. It's a bold choice though, because there are plenty of Carrey films I pick above that. But like, I appreciate the explanation.
But you know, showing it to the locker room.
Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, it's not my favourite film. No. Shawshank Redemption is my favourite film.
That is the best film. Like, unobjectively, I think it's like the greatest film ever made.
Yeah, it's my favourite film. Or The $1 Million Baby, which actually was a big influence of Charlie Morgan.
Really? Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah. So I watched The $1 Million Baby and thought that's what I want Charlie Morgan to look like.
Nice. I like that. I see that now. Now that you say it, I see it. But I wouldn't have clicked that before. But now that you say it, yeah, I get it.
You get it, yeah.
I like that. The next one is my favourite way to relax.
I think it's illegal, to be honest. Go to a bar, I suppose. I'll make it PG.
I like that. That's good.
It's fine.
I mean, that's fine. You know, whatever you like to do. You know, you work hard, right? You're busy. You're wrestling. You're putting your body on the line. You can relax however you want.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I told you I was blunt. I am a big fan of spas. Literally, I feel like I saw Nina Samuels like a few weeks ago. And she was like, "Do you just rent out spas? Like you're constantly in them?" And I was like, "Yeah, pretty much."
I like that. Yeah, nice detox. Yeah, that's the PG version.
Yes, the PG version.
Brilliant. The next one's a bit of a throwback because it's my first job.
I worked on with my mum, making beds basically.
Fair enough.
Making beds as in putting them together.
No, not the hammering.
Yeah, screwdriving that. No, not that. I was like 14 actually, and she's like honestly like my mum is a really big influence in regards to like why I work so hard. He very much did the exact same thing. Well, not jumped off balconies and all that, but like as in, you know, raised myself and my sister, which was a single mum, but like it worked down hard, like she really did. And I think I have similar traits. So, you know, she was like trying to start earning money. I was like 13, 14, and she owned a guest house.
Right.
She was like, well, just come down for a couple hours, like every Saturday, Sunday, and I'll give you like 15 quid or something like that. So yeah, I used to come down and go around the rooms in the guest house and the hotel and just like clean the rooms, make the beds, things like that. And
nice, yeah.
Didn't last very long because my mum said it was crap.
I would have got the same, yeah. Never good at making the bed or anything like that. That's not my forte.
You know, something funny. I obviously make my own bed now, and Jetta would come up and she'd be like, I fucking make the beds. She's like, why do you make the beds like this? And I'm like, well, that's what I got taught when I was 14, making the damn beds on a weekend. And she was like, well, I hate it.
Brilliant. I love that. That's I like how you clarified that, being like, oh, I make my own bed now, as if like I was going to suggest that you didn't.
Well, I just wanted to put it out there, people will be, jumping all over me if not.
Yeah.
Just take your own bed.
God, how could you? No, I like that. I bet there's probably some like, maybe not un-PG, but like not maybe not the most pleasant things to be found in like certain like rooms in a guest house, potentially.
Yeah. I used to take, as a little shit, I used to just spray their like perfume,
You gotta get something out of it, right? 15 quid's not that much. Like you gotta get a bit extra on the side.
No, that's only like 3 McDonald's. Go on.
It's less than that now. I tell you what,
It was probably about 6 McDonald's back then.
Yeah, but you say that now. I tell you what. So me and my partner went to Uber Eats McDonald's like a couple of weeks ago. Because like in your mind, right, McDonald's is like the cheap takeaway, right? If you want like to not spend a lot, right? Costs 28 quid for 2 meals. Yeah, we got like meal each. So like I got Big Mac meal. She gets like a Big Tasty or whatever, and then we got like a side of nuggets and the mozzarella sticks. But even that, 28 quid.
Jesus, that was a lot.
So I realised that's when I knew that like the credit crisis was hitting. You know what I mean? I was like, shit, McDonald's costs 28 quid now.
That's expensive.
I was like, used to be able to get Shake Shack for 28 quid, and now it's cost a McDonald's.
I know, yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's
bad. That's the moment it hit home for me. I was like, I didn't really see it before, but now
the petrol's killed me off.
Has it? I don't drive because I live in London, and so I have no need for a car.
I was thinking about not driving, to be honest.
It's cheaper. It would be cheaper in the long run, I think.
Yeah.
But I imagine wrestling-wise, a bit tougher to get to shows.
Yeah, I would be lost without my card.
No, I get it. It's essential.
Definitely.
The next one is it's sort of like the opposite of my first job, because it's if I wasn't a wrestler, I'd be.
I don't know, because I have a full-time job outside of wrestling.
Mm.
I don't know how. My work colleagues are like, you're literally insane. But something I do want to start doing is, and I do somewhat, like have started doing it, but like PTing.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know if I'd say like I would just do PT.
Mm.
I'd love to like invest like money into something like so I work with children, and I have in the past worked with children with special educational needs.
Right.
So if I could ever cross over like special educational like physical needs and PTing and maybe like focus on rehabilitation or focusing on how to get, I suppose, like a physioist, I suppose. But in regards to the fitness world, if that makes sense. I think I've created a post-op. I've created my own position, I feel like. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I know. You need your own title for it and everything.
Yeah. But I've always, well, not always said, but I've said in recent years, like, if I wasn't doing what I was doing in my full-time job or wasn't wrestling and I had, I was able to do something like that, I would.
Yeah, I like that. That'd be cool. I get that. Yeah. Next one is my favourite animal.
So not pets.
It can be a pet if that's your favourite animal. Like if like a dog or whatever is favourite animal. But it can be any animal.
I'm actually quite a cat lover, but I keep it quite private.
Oh really? Is there a stigma against that?
Yeah. Weird crazy cat lady. And that's just not me, is it?
I suppose, yeah. Crazy cat lady Charlie Morgan.
Yeah, you just don't envision it, do you?
I mean, to be honest, whenever anyone says crazy cat lady, the first thing in my mind is the woman from The Simpsons who pushes them all around in her trolley and like throws them at people.
Exactly. Like, I don't want to. If you just went up to someone and said, "Okay, envision or describe to me what a crazy cat lady is like," you would not describe baseball jersey or a jersey with a baseball cap, really cool.
Yeah.
You wouldn't describe that.
No, but again, like 1 cat or 2 cats isn't crazy cat lady. That's just like, I like cats.
I only have 2, yeah. Maybe I'm not a crazy cat definitely. But cats is definitely the option.
Nice. That's fair enough. Yeah, a few more cats till you get to crazy.
I'm no Alexis Falcon.
Who is? Let's face it. Who is Alexis Falcon? She is completely unique, but we love it.
Yeah, for sure.
You're not going to start wearing Crocs.
No.
I love Alexa, she's great, but that's the thing I don't get. I can't abide by the Crocs. I don't get that.
It's a no from me, I'm afraid.
No.
Next time you're going to see Charlie Morgan cut promo, she's going to come out with Crocs on. Whatever the hell that is.
Love it. The next one, a couple of wrestling related ones. This next one's a two-parter because it's my favourite wrestling match, and I'm going to ask you for one you've had and one you've watched.
One I've watched.
The camera's gone.
It's because sorry, the thing come up.
No, it's all right.
I try not to just go for generic one because I always say Shawn Michaels and Taker 25.
Nice. That is a classic though.
That is such a classic. But I'm going to say it anyway.
Yeah. I won't begrudge you that. That's a great shout. Like, that is one of, like, I would say it's easily one of the 5 greatest matches I've ever seen. Maybe the best. Definitely in the top 5, possibly top 3.
Yeah, definitely. It's absolutely, like, incredible. Now, my favourite would probably be against Emerson Jane at WrestleQueendom 1.
Nice. Just
because of everything involved, you know, being the main event, what the show represented, the pressure, and then just a special moment of having my family there and them getting in the ring after and the celebration and just having all the girls there. Like, it was really, really special. I don't know if the moment will ever top that.
No, I get that. I like that. That was a great moment. And you've had like loads more since, but I think like those early big moments are always the ones that sort of stick with you more, right? Those like early opportunities.
Yeah. She won weekend was really special, especially one weekend was really special as well. But I would say if I had to choose one, it would be against Emerson Jane. And she's, a phenomenal wrestler. Always brings the best out in me, for sure.
Absolutely. As we've seen throughout your incredible rivalry that you've had with her over the years.
There we go.
Amazing.
Knock her out soon.
Can't wait for that. The next one. See, this is the thing. I don't think we've asked someone yet where the answer in my mind could be yourself. But it's one that I'm going to ask you to be in person for because it's the loudest pop I've ever heard.
I wasn't there in person then, but it was one of the loudest pops I've ever heard on telly, which I'll say anyway. But then I'll go back to the in person where Jeff and Matt Hardy returned at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think that's the standout answer, which is why I make it in person because I'm like, if I don't say in person, everyone's going to say that because I've never heard a pop like that.
So in person, I would say, so this is when I was going back like 2010, so a year before I started wrestling as a fan. I went to WrestleMania in Atlanta, Georgia.
12 years ago. Yeah, that sounds right.
And The Rock came out who was hosting the show.
Yes, yeah. He
was the first person to come out, in regards to like, the first person that, the crowd saw him. His music hit and just
blew the roof off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. That's a cool one. That's a cool moment to be there live for as well.
Yeah, it was really, really really special. Yeah.
Nice. The next one is my favourite venue to wrestle in.
Easy, Resgal, hands down. Well, it's my most favourite, but hated.
Right. Okay.
I love it, but I hate it.
The love comes from like
disgusting little venue backstage, but my God, it's so intimate and like the fans are so close, and it creates a really good atmosphere.
Yeah, and also it's pretty synonymous with like your career as well coming through.
Yeah. I also do really like wrestling in the ballroom. Yeah, that's got quite a lot of like special moments there as well.
Yeah, Nice.
Got quite a magnitude in there for me, so.
Yeah, I like it. On a bit of a tangent there, while we're on this, like, how has it been the last year wrestling away from Resgal with Eve, when it's been so synonymous with Resgal for so long, being in like a few different venues over the last sort of 12 months?
Yeah, I think it's difficult because you just sort of just want to find home. And I still think, Dan is on the search for his new home, in Eve. I still don't think he is quite there yet. And, I think it's going to take time. I don't think the Red Skull will ever be replaced. But I think there's certainly something out there that could be like Eve's second home sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you just work with what you're, work with your surroundings and your environment, and you make it work and you make it special. Each and every time you go out there, us together as a crew, workers and whatnot. So yeah, you just sort of roll with the punches, really.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like you say, hopefully that'll come soon. But yeah, like it'll take a little while for any venue to be like the new home, because you got to like bed in and make it your own sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. Only a couple left. The next one is my favourite place in the world.
Well, Dubai. It was incredible.
I was going to say that. You say that though, but I mean, like, as someone who's experienced it, the beach can't be as good as the beach in Brighton when you were down for Riptide and things like that, right? I mean, the Pebble Beach in Brighton, that can't be topped.
I mean, it did come close. It was probably second.
The sea is so much cleaner as well.
Oh my god, it's so nice. Yeah, it's like clear blue. Like, I got up to my waist, so I could still see my feet. Like, it's just insane. Mexico's an incredible place. And actually, I'm only 4 weeks away from me and Jetta going off to Mauritius, so I cannot wait.
Nice.
Yeah, really excited. We haven't had a proper summer holiday since 2019.
Yeah.
So can't wait for that one. But yeah, I would say honestly Dubai. And it's not because I've just been there. I've been to many places in the world, and that just blew me away. It
nice.
Really, really did. The culture, how clean it is. Like, it's a city, but there's so many things to do there. Yeah, they've got the man-made beaches. They've got like the biggest water park in the world, which we went. Yeah, it was great. Like the nightlife, just everything.
Nice. Love it. Well, the final one is, let's say somewhere you haven't been and not Mauritius because you're going, because it's my dream holiday destination.
Dream holiday destination? Somewhere I really want to go, but not... I would say to wrestle would be Canada.
Okay. I thought you were going to say Japan, because everyone says Japan for that answer in terms of like, oh, I don't want to go for a holiday, I want to go to wrestle.
I know, but like, obviously Japan is a goal, don't get me wrong. Massive goal, but the States was a bigger goal for me than Japan.
Right. Okay.
And along with the States comes Canada, so I feel like I've not completely accomplished it until I've done Canada as well.
Nice.
But holiday, well, it's got to be the Maldives, hasn't it?
Yeah. Nice bit of sun, beach, clean water, like.
Exactly, it's only about $4,000 per person. So
is that it? That's dead cheap.
I know.
Simple.
Yeah, what's the wish? So I have got a honeymoon coming up in the next year or so.
You know, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed for the winning lottery ticket, yes.
Love it. Well, we're just sort of winding down now. And like you mentioned, talking about trying to go to America and Canada, things like that. That's why I wanted to ask in terms of, it's been a great year back for you in terms of coming back to wrestling. If we were having this chat this time next year, what would have constituted, in your mind as Yasmin, what would constitute a good year, successful year for Charlie Morgan coming up?
Be happy in regards to what you're doing and make sure you're still having fun and don't get injured. Literally, they're my two biggest things. And then comes the goals, I need to make sure that every time I go out there, I feel happy and I'm buzzed to be doing what I'm doing, because the moment I don't feel like that, I need to just take a step back. I don't mean forever, I just mean in general. I don't feel like that, I feel great. And then obviously the injury, I would really hate to be injured. Anyone does as a wrestler, obviously would hate to be injured. I think at this point in my career, like, pushing sort of, I wouldn't say the back end, but I'm not in the beginning nor the middle of it. So if you know what I mean? Yeah. Injured at this stage in my career would be pretty shit. So let's touch on that one.
Absolutely.
And Goal-wise, I'd love to continue properly, like tagging with Jetta, holding tag team champions in Eve. I am aiming to be the first to hold all the belts in Eve.
Yeah.
That's a little goal for me. To go to Canada, to go back to the States, wrestle, just travel and wrestle as much as I possibly can and have fun and ensure that I'm happy doing it. And hey, if bigger things come my way, I'm obviously very much open to opportunities. And, I do, still have bigger goals, but I'm, sort of at the point now in my career where I'm really happy in my private life. So if it all did end tomorrow, and hopefully it doesn't, I would be, nearly happily married and on to the next chapter of my life. But I don't want it to end anytime soon, and I'm not ready to finish. So,
and we're not ready to have you go because we just got you back. So
I have a lot more to give. I have a lot more to accomplish and achieve, and I just sort of, taking baby steps in each month as it comes, and I just look forward to, the small progression and steps. Like for example, when I came back in August, if someone said to me, "Oh, in about a year's time, you're going to go to Dubai and make history," I would be like, "What?" But that's a massive achievement, and I hope to continue to keep doing stuff like that as years go by. And I'm hopeful. So let's see.
Love that, brilliant. Well, Charlie Morgan, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Grapple Theory podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been a blast. Thanks for having me.
Good. I'm glad. It's been great chatting all things.
Something new.
Yeah, always do. And you always like to reminisce on stuff as well. That's what we like to do here. We like to get you reminiscing.
Yeah, it's like therapy. I find these things like therapy.
It's nice, isn't it? It's nice to look back.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely. It's
good
fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
No, of course. Thank you. Well,
boring you, but thank you for listening.
No, not boring at all. Not boring at all. Well, we always end with giving our guest one final bit of promo time. So if anyone sees you wrestling at Eve or anywhere else in the country or anywhere else in the world, why is fearless Charlie Morgan going to steal the show?
Because that's what I do and that's what I always do. I'm the most exciting wrestler on the cards because no one can do what I can do. In regards to jumping off balconies, taking dives, doing whatever I possibly can to make sure I get the big W. And tell me somebody else in the scene that's like me because there ain't nobody like me.